It's Ian at Las Vegas Scooters and Lifts, and today I have not one but two Victory LX Sports in for a service and repair. Quite an extensive repair. Alright, yeah, I've got two of these things in. The guys use them up and down the strip and rag them to death, as you can see. Pretty well loved, and they're having problems with them now. So I've got two of them in for service. I service them, but they're having bigger problems. This one needs two new batteries and it has a connector problem. And the one I'm working on at the moment is the seat off the other one. The batteries are okay on this one, but this one is having connector issues. You see it melted there. That's your lights, that's your brake and motor, and we've got high resistance and melting going on with the pins. So I've already taken this apart, the back end. This is what I'm faced with. Brake pins are fine, they come out okay. I've had to break off the retaining portion of that thing there, and as you can see the wires have completely melted together, so I'm going to have to try and to save the motor of this. This does have a whiny motor as well, but I told them to change the transaxle because it's not very good. It's making a noise, and that's probably what's causing this, but they're both doing it. But they do rag on these things pretty hard. So I'm going to try and attempt to relieve these pins to save him a bill of getting a new motor on this thing. Let's see what I can do. Okay, just set you up over there. Move a few bits out of my way. What I'm going to try and do is use a Dremel cutting disc to see if I can relieve those pins from this hard plastic case. They're getting a replacement connector front and rear, but I know the wiring on that's going to need changing. That I've ordered, but the motor end is attached to the motor. There's no plug like there is on the brake wires. You've got a connector plug there for your brake, so you can change the wiring out if it gets damaged. But with the motor, you can't. It's wired directly to the motor, so be careful if you're assembling any kind of scooter that has this format of connector. If you bend or break these pins, especially if it's motor wiring, then you're looking at a new motor, and sometimes a transaxle as well. So I'm gonna, like I said, try with the Dremel and see if I can free them up, get some speed. So sorry for the noise. I'll probably do a time lapse, and hopefully you can see what goes on. Well, they ain't pretty, but they're out. I cleaned them up as best I can, so hopefully that'll fit back in the connector block. I don't normally do this for people. It's usually having to replace the whole thing, but hopefully it'll work out for these guys. So, just wait for the connector block to come in, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm working on the front section, and I just want to show you, you got some, if you do need to change the wiring, You don't need to get the floor shroud out if you just want to get into the controller that's located underneath. I'll show you that in a bit. But if you need to replace any of this kind of wiring or these connectors, which I've got to do, these wiring harnesses you can see down here, you're going to have to remove the tiller and remove the floor shroud to get access to remove the wiring. And that feeds through the center tunnel, which I'll show you later. It goes through to the controller, and there are screw points just there, same on the other side, and you've also got a screw point there, and then there's one about there and there on the opposite side. One there and one there, also one here and one here on the underside, and also you have to hold this red shroud on here. There's two underneath there which hold this shroud on, and then if I can pry it off, that releases your shroud so they can change the colour. Put that down. Then there's another screw located there and one there, and also one there and one there, and that will release that shroud from the frame, and that will give you access to the wiring harness. It's a bit of a job. I've got to take that off, the front section off to get to that, because that's loose. So I've got to tighten that up for him and put some Loctite on it. If you do ever have to remove these nylon nuts, they do recommend that you put new ones on or use Loctite to hold them in place, otherwise you have to replace them. Yeah, I just thought I'd show you the process of having to remove your floor shroud if you damage it or you want to replace it or you need to get to the wiring. You will have to remove this to get this floor shroud off, so you need to undo this, and also there's a connector, front to rear connector just there, so once this is removed I'll be able to cut that, unplug it, and then the tiller will come off. That'll give me access to the floor shroud coming off the scooter. Hell of a job. It's not for the faint-hearted, but this, if you do want to do this, this is the route you're going to have to take. Alright, I'll show you those other points when I tip it up on its side to show you where the controller is located if you just want to change the controller around. Alright, carry on. Okay, so I've got the floor shroud off without taking this top tiller off. So luckily, when I undid these two and two at the front here, that released the main floor shroud away from the front, and this is held on with two more screws, one there and one there, and that releases this, so you don't have to unplug this or take the tiller off. And that is where your controller is located, and you can access it from underneath the scooter. Right, 4 screws, one in either corner, and this plate falls down. But like I said, if you need to replace the wiring, you're going to have to remove this post connection piece here to remove these wires. These two are your brake wires, the two brown, that's your power wire. It's either going to be to the motor, which I believe it is, and that is your battery connector wire from this post here to here. It's an S-Drive controller. There's your controller number, 200-2776. Also CTL 1712915AMB, revision A on this version. So yeah, to get this off, that's your diagnostic port under there, your reset button there, 2 screws at the front and 1 at the rear, and that will remove this so you can drag the wires out and get to replace that. These connectors at the back here, zoom in for you, if you can see, they're held on with nut and screw there, not there, and there's also one behind that wiring just there. So that's how you would remove those. And then there's 2 screws, one there and one there, that releases the hold down plate so you can remove the pins from there. but I'll be just removing this connector block, remove it. I think they're going to send both, so I'll replace both of them because they come in pairs, and we'll go from there. So at least I can get in now to service it. I'll just zoom back out so you can see. But yeah, I'll show you the screw points for underneath. One there, opposite side, one there. And like I said, there's these here and here. That holds down the main base of the shroud, plus those ones I showed you on the back frame, and then the four that hold it. There's the floor shroud there. That comes off in one piece, so if you break that you can replace it. Or if you break this or the red shroud, you can replace that separately. But you still got to take everything apart. But at least you don't have to take this off. Thank God. With Victory 10s you do. Especially three-wheelers and the four-wheelers, sorry. You have to remove the tiller and the wiring to get that off. But yeah, let's get everything cleaned up and ready for the parts to come in. And give it back to the customer. And definitely, if you're going to service one of these, if you're a dealer and you're servicing one of these for somebody, and you're going to do an in-depth service and check everything like this, definitely charge more than a regular service, because it's very in-depth and very time-consuming. This is my second day at it, after going backwards and forwards with the customer about replacing parts and what the problems are. And yeah, so don't just charge your normal service time, because it's a 2 to 3 day process. So that's how long it's taking me. Stay tuned. I haven't got my microphone on, but hopefully you can hear this okay. But these are your connectors at the back. You got one for the lights and one for the power. The power one's pretty standard, same as any scooter. You got power red positive at the bottom, black second, and your two brake wires at the top there. And that's mounted that way on. As you can see, the damage there. So you got a little notch cut out there that goes at the bottom, but red at the bottom, then black, and then your two brake wires. This side, again, notch at the bottom, get it right way around. So you got a notch out at the bottom there, and your wiring and configuration is red, purple, then brown and green. So if you ever take one apart and you forget which way round it goes and which wires, because I'm going to have to take these blocks off to get the wires through there. That's the way you would thread it through the tunnel at the back there, and then they're just cable tied to there and there, just to hold them out of the way. But yeah, just thought I'd show you that. Just getting these off ready for putting the new parts on when they come. I'm going to transfer this side, if I can, to the other scooter. I'm just going to trace that wire, which I think, I'm not sure if you can. Just move this out of the way. Sorry, you can't see it. I think that is that wire there. Yeah, that wire connector there. It's like oblong block, squarish, and you can actually wire it because it has a plug connector. This one with a larger plug connector on it. This one, which is your main power and brake line. That's why I've had to take that cover off there. And they're just a little 5mm tapered bit to get those nuts off of there. To relieve that, so you can unplug the brake wire. You don't need to unplug your diagnostic port or your main harness if you're replacing that connector. So that's where I'm at the minute. So this just press down and give it a wiggle. It should pop out if you. There you go. A bit like what they use on power chairs. So that's that connector I've got to replace along with brake wire. But yep, those are your colour combinations. Just remember that big notch at the bottom goes out the bottom, that way on. When you put it back on, I would say when you are putting it back on, just make these a little bit loose, the nut and bolts. Make them loose so when you bring it all together, it's not going to bind up. And then once it's together, try and tighten it up if you can. You know, just don't nip it up too tight. These can actually move a little bit, move into position, and try and tighten it that way. But usually you can put these, there's some marks already there, as you can see, where the thing blocks were. Hopefully that will give me an alignment, and then I'll do it on the rear section, get that aligned. That's still waiting for its new connector block. It's best I can do with those, but you've seen that already. So yeah, just waiting for the parts and then we can move on. Alright, finally the parts have come in. Got my wiring harness and connector blocks that I need. So look for that and two for the rear. So I'll do the rear first, as soon as I'm right there with it. Get you in place. Okay, so they sent the two rear connectors for the front section and the connector for the rear section. Once I've done this, I'll leave them loose so I can align it. And I give you the mounting screws with Loctite already on them. Just stop it moving. Well, that ain't gonna work. It sent me the wrong side. Okay. Basically, luckily these are reversible, but you have to strip all this down. Fine and dandy. I'll do this off camera, flip it round because it should go that way and there's no mounting holes out. There's only mounting holes out, and that will make it upside down. It's got to be that way around. Just yeah, they're close together, so it has to go on the inside. It won't go on that side because of that. So I'll flip that round and get that sorted. Bear with me. I'll just quickly show you. As you can see, they drill holes both sides, and that's where the spring is. So you just flip it over, flip that over, and that way it's the correct orientation with a little tab at the bottom, and make sure it's sprung loaded at the top for when it connects. So that's all I'm doing, is just flipping that over. The spring was on that side, move it there and flip it over. Alright, okay, that's all assembled. Put some Loctite on those nylon nuts as well, just because I had to undo them. Just stop it from backing off. These guys don't take the scooters apart that often, so if at all. And when I called Pride Tech up, the tech person said that it's because they slammed it together when they take it apart, but they've never taken them apart since they got them. So I do know it's a bad connection, and it's not because they bent any pins, or like Pride said. So that's not correct. So I'm going to put some heat shrink on the exposed pin if I can. Yeah, see if I can. It's going to be quite a big piece. Just get it over there, just to help protect it. Hopefully this will sink down enough. Just in case the wires move. So setup of one of these connector blocks. That's your top, the top of it, the bit that springs. So positive is your bottom, then negative, and then your two brake wires. I don't believe it's, just want to make sure, just test fitting and make sure they still fit okay, nothing's touching before I put this separator plate. It keeps these separate. And then two brake wires. This is the awkward bit, relocating it, especially the brake wires move around. So make sure that's the right way around. Brake wires at the top, power wires at the bottom. And it's just a matter of fiddling with it to try and get the pins aligned. You'll get two and then the other two will wander off. There's three. Oh, just got to find this bottom power wire. There it goes. Got it in. You've got to make sure those pins are pushed all the way through and not use these screws to squish it down. Just make sure they're seated correctly. You don't want to damage anything and break that back plate. I've got to remember how it all goes back together. Tighten up the securing screws for the back plate and make sure the wires are pushed in. Not over tight till it crushes and breaks it. And relocate that back in its place. The new Allen bolts back in. Like I said, don't over tighten these first off because you've got to realign everything. When you test fit it, you may have to undo the bottom one, this one, because I've got those other two to put in, and that's going to be a bit more tricky. Well, this one's really easy. that wrench is just missing. There it is. Just nip these up so they're secure but not too tight, so it still moves. This is the same process for any of the Pride scooters, and now some of the Goldens have this connection system. They've gone to this quick connect rather than the plate method where they had a slot and a receiving female slot. And they've gone towards this quick system, which is far better, I believe. You can snap pins, but you can bend plates on the other. Drive was the worst. They had like a spring and a plate, and they sometimes get bent. So if you get a motor disconnect or a brake error on a drive scooter, check those first. Not necessarily you break it, sometimes the connector. I've seen a brand new one out of the box have bent ones. And yeah, maybe 2 light wires, I believe, coming from this bottom one. Okay, so that's all back together. Springs nicely. Clean the pins up the best I can. Hopefully that's gonna work for him. So now I'll move on to removing the wiring from the front. Alright, working on to the front. I've already unplugged this. This is the harness I'm going to be relieving. I undid this just to give me some extra room. And you've got your brake wire, which I showed you earlier, which is the 2 brown wires, little double plug there, and that is your main wiring just there. Now I'm thinking the easiest way would have been, if this wasn't damaged, this connector, if it hasn't been damaged, I would have been able to remove all that, but I can't remove that. So I'm hoping, I don't think that's going to go through there, so I'm going to have to see if I can remove this. Let's see what comes out of it. Sorry if you can't see. It's the best I can do with the camera setup. All I'm doing is removing the back plate to see if it will remove the wires. Again, it's the same setup. This is your female side. I'm just removing the back plate. I don't know if you can see that. Just the same 2 screws that hold the back plate in. But this is severely melted. I was hoping I was going to reuse this and help a guy out with the other one. I don't think it's going to come apart. I don't know until I try. Yeah, that's stuck in there. So I'm going to try Dremel and punch it through, see if that'll loosen it. I'll try cleaning it up with the Dremel first. And see if I can release it, get it to come apart, because that's the only way you're going to get it through the frame there. This plug is too big to go through, so you've got to feed it through that way. So give me a second, I'll see if I can clean that back end up. Alright, just to show you the carnage that I've had to do to try and release those wires. They were well melted in there. There's no saving them. As you can see, they were just completely melted to the posts. I may be able to save them and do him a favour, but I don't know. Been a lot more work than I really needed to do. But there's no way of pulling that wire through. There's all sorts of welds on the inside of there, and that plug's just way too fat to go through there. It goes so far it just gets caught up on this cross member here. So I'm going to try cleaning these up for him, but he's going to need a new rear connector. So the brake side's okay, they never melt. It's very rare that you'll see that, but these two have melted to the metal and the plastic, so I don't think there's going to be saving these, but I'll give it a go, see what happens. Hang fire. Oh. Several sanding discs later, managed to get them up, but they're going to be no good. I'm not happy with that. It's got plastic on the inside of them, so I'll show him that when I get these out. I'm just going to pull those through. Put that one back in, that's the light side. And then put the new connectors on. New wiring harness. We should be golden. Or Pride, whichever. Alright, so